Hi, this is JR, expat in Saigon. I'm here with my friend Jeff today at Sweet Coffee. We're going to talk about teaching in Vietnam. I've had a lot of questions and a lot of comments about teaching in Vietnam, and we thought we would see if we could answer some of the questions and tell people what it's like here for real. Jeff, how did you find out about teaching in Vietnam and get started doing it?
Oh, that's easy. You sent me an email and said, hey, why don't you come over here and teach?
Oops. Yeah, that might have been me.
So I came over here and little by little I picked up classes. Now I'm busy teaching.
Well, one of the questions that the guys have been asking is about their TOEFL certificate. They wanted to know whether they should wait till they and get one here or if they should get it before they show up in Vietnam.
Well, there are a number of schools here that offer TOEFL certificates, but I would recommend if you're planning to come here to teach, take care of your certification before you leave your home country. It's better, plus you can get your documents certified or authenticated at in your country and bring them along with you.
You definitely think that's best.
It's much faster.
Okay, great. Another thing that they've been asking is about age. I know age is a pretty serious issue here, and the schools do like younger teachers. You see that a lot, but overall, do you think the opportunity is here for older teachers?
Well, definitely the advantages for young people. There are more opportunities. If they have a choice between choosing me or a 25-year-old or 30-year-old guy, they'll choose the younger guy. They figure more energy and also more photogenic because they like to take pictures and advertise.
What about teaching the younger kids? I know sometimes they want you to play games and sing with them and stuff like that.
Yeah, and get dressed up funny, that type of thing, sure. Hey, let's face it, we can do that too.
Okay, I'm sure. How about the requirements for teaching in an English center or tutoring or teaching in a smaller school? I'm sure they differ. Can you tell us about the differences?
Sure, I can tell you. If you're teaching in a small school that maybe not registered, they're pretty lax about that. Usually you get paid cash, no deductions, no tax. But if you're wanting to get something that's a little bit more long-term, better work environment, you're going to want to work in one of the mainstream schools or even teach in some of the public schools. For that, the government's very strict and you have to have a work permit. To have a work permit, you need to have a university degree, you have to have a teaching certificate, there's a number of them out there, minimum 120-hour certification. They like you to have some experience, but not necessarily. The first two are the most important, and they're going to ask you for that. Then the school will help you, well, most schools will help you get your work permit.
What about your health what is it, an inspection or health certificate that you have to have here?
Right, you have to have a medical checkup, and for that you go to one of the local hospitals. The school usually will line that up for you. There are some hospitals, they offer some degree of English, so especially if you're new here, you're lost without that. So they'll send you to one of the hospitals that takes care of that. And they check everything. It's pretty thorough.
Okay, that sounds good.
Of course, you have to pay for it yourself.
So the schools don't pay for that. What do the schools pay for?
Well, some schools will help with, they'll pay for maybe 50% of the filing costs, the government fees.
Right.
For instance, to get your work permit, that's going to cost you anywhere between 5 and 10 million Vietnamese dong. Some of the schools, they'll pay half of that for you.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
Certainly helps.
sure does.
Yep. Yeah, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a visa and a resident card for teachers? I know when people come in the country, they usually come in on a visa, but then what happens after that?
Well, my experience, I came in on a 3-month visa. I taught for a while and just kept renewing my 3-month visa. Once I got my work permit, then the school said something about a temporary residence card, TRC. And figured, okay, why not? Applied for that, got that. It's a card that gets attached to your passport. They staple it into the front of your passport. And that acts as your visa. You can go out of the country and come back in for as much as you want and for the length of the duration of the card. The first one I had was for 1 year. The one that I'm getting now is for 2 years. So that's like a 2-year visa.
Yeah, so what's the cost on those?
The cost is about just a little over, this one's costing me 5.7 million.
Oh, that's not bad. That's what, $250 or so, roughly? For 2 years?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's right in line with what you'd pay if you were paying your entry fee.
Right.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, when you consider that, at the airport you're paying almost 600,000 dong when you arrive, plus you've already paid, what, $15 to get that letter, plus you have to pay for your flight in and out. That all adds up pretty fast. So this is a pretty good deal.
Is it really legal to teach when you're here on your 3-month visitor's visa?
They give you a period of time. Obviously, it takes time to process the paperwork. It takes roughly 2 months, anywhere from one to 2 months to get your work permit. So once you get a job at an English center, if it's an accredited one or a certified one, they're going to want to get you started right away.
You know, when I tried teaching here, the hardest thing for me to do was prepare for a class. It just never seemed like that they had enough information for me to put together what the students want. And then if I'd show up to a class, the kids would all be different ages and in different English levels. What do you do about that?
There's no real easy answer for that. For instance, when I go and do a cover class, sometimes I don't even know the age of the group. They don't tell you. I've walked into a class where they said, just teach them to say something. I don't know what they've done. I don't know what level they are. They seem to think that we're wizards. Whatever we say is going to make a big change. So, as much as possible, go with the flow. Try to prepare in advance by having, maybe a couple of games, that you're ready to play with any age group, or have some introductory type lessons ready so that you can use with, most age groups. If you're teaching adults, gear towards that. If you're teaching young kids, teach it for, set it for that.
Yeah, I know you were teaching IELTS to a lot of the students. Is there any special preparation or anything that you have to do for that?
Well, I've done a lot of IELTS teaching in the last couple of years, and the school that I was teaching at before, they just basically threw me out there and said, teach them how to, do the speaking part. You're the foreigner, you know how to speak.
Yeah, let me redo my part. What do you feel about success rate with teaching IELTS? Do you feel like you're accomplishing a lot?
It's hard to say. I'm not the only one that's teaching them. In the schools, there's Vietnamese teachers that speak English, and they'll do some of the IELTS training for the students as well, especially the listening and the reading and the writing part. the speaking, usually they leave to the native English speakers.
Oh, so you don't teach any of the written work?
Oh, I do, especially now. I've been doing, I do all 4 parts of the IELTS exam, but there's other teachers that are teaching it as well. So how successful am I? All I know is that students are passing, and a lot of them that do it, the ones that I teach, they go off to another country and they either are studying in high school or in university.
What IELTS level do the kids have to go to another country?
Well, it depends on the level. If they're going to high school, probably 5.5. And if they're looking at university, depending on the school and the program they're going into, could be anywhere from a 6, 6.5, or a 7.
How do you prepare for classes where you've got a mixed group, some at lower speaking levels than others? Seems like that'd be awfully difficult.
Well, yeah, it can be. It's quite a challenge. You walk into a class first time and you have no idea what to expect. You're going to find there's going to be all different ranges. There are some students, their speaking ability is great, but maybe their writing ability is not. A lot of them, when it comes to creative writing, and that's what a lot of it is to be able to read something and come up with a solution as to, write an answer. A lot of them can't do that, and they can't even do it in Vietnamese. So,
that was another thing I was going to ask you about. I know you don't speak Vietnamese, but does a teacher need to speak Vietnamese, or is it helpful?
It can be helpful, yes, but you have to be careful with that. The students then start to depend on the Vietnamese. The younger the age, the more that is the problem. For instance, I was teaching a class of 2- and 3-year-olds. A couple of the TAs were speaking to each other in Vietnamese. You could see immediately, the kids were drawn immediately over to the TAs. They didn't hear a word I said in English. Okay, so that can be a problem, but it can be a help as well if your Vietnamese is good enough to be able to explain technical things in language.
Well, that was one thing that was pretty good when I tried to teach, is that I at least knew enough to tell them to sit down or write this or make a sentence, but I just didn't stay in the game long enough to have the experience that you do. So I bailed out pretty quick. Jeff, is there anything you'd like to share with the people that might be thinking about coming over here, either the younger people, the travelers, backpackers, or the older people that maybe want to retire here?
Sure. First of all, make sure you have your paperwork ready. If you can take care of it before you leave, so much the better. Check online, find out all the requirements. You need to work on, get your visa on arrival. You need to make sure you have your police clearance from your home country. Okay. You need to have your certificates all authenticated, your degrees. Make sure your passport isn't going to expire within a few months of your arriving here. It's got to be good for at least 6 months or more. I would say if it's down to 6 months, probably think about getting it renewed. What else? Timing. Beginning of the year. TET usually falls at the end of January, beginning of February. From there until June, July, it's not a good time to come and try to get a teaching job, because schools are closed for TET. They start shutting down before TET. They're closed for about 2 weeks during that time. 2 weeks after TET, it's another week or two before they really get back up to schedule. Then schools here are starting to slow down, and they're getting all the students ready to write their final exams. The school year ends in April, May. Then they have summer break here, June, July. So that means they're really not up and going and looking for teachers again until August. So August is a good time. July, August is great for coming and looking for jobs. There will be lots of them.
Where do you look for job listings?
Well, you can look on Craigslist. There's lots there. There's a number of Facebook groups. I belong to one Facebook group, and it's got lots and lots of listings on it. If you come and you have some teaching but not lots, you can pick up a lot of cover classes through this group as well.
Cool. Well, overall, do you think teaching here is a good opportunity for retired people?
For me, it's great. I can work as much or as little as I want. Right now, I'd like to pick up more classes, but this is the down season, so I've got enough.
Well, I hope some of this helps. Maybe help you make a decision whether you want to come to Vietnam or not to try teaching. If I haven't answered your question, my email address is in my channel listing, and also you can leave a comment below. Also, I'll put some links to the Craigslist site and a couple of the other, maybe Jeff's Facebook group and some things like that below in the description. So that should help you get going. Yeah, when you guys have more questions, we'll try to get on and answer them. Hopefully this helps, and in the future, if there's more questions, we'll put together another video on it. Thanks, and if you like the video, like and subscribe, and see you soon.